Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Nicoletta and I am a weird sister. If you need one, I am here for you. If you already have another, I'm here for you too, should you decide to add another. Today's topic for Friday, we are going to be discussing a new series. I know you're probably looking at my channel and you're like, oh my god, she's got all these new series. But this one is actually really important to me because it talks about how we're currently shaping ourselves in our society around one particular thing, and that is social media. So, we're going to be talking about social media. Is it ruining us? How does it make you feel? All that kind of a thing. I personally started to notice around 2020 with the pandemic that there was a lot of buy-in with social media. And I know that we all know that. We were all on our phones, we were all stuck at home, we were all dealing with the pandemic, we were all working from home. It was absolutely insane. Um, Sidebar. Do you know where I was at the beginning of the pandemic? Oh, I'll tell you. I was on a plane when the news broke about the pandemic. I had planned a trip to go see my family back on the East Coast in October of 2019. And I read a headline in October of 2019 about the coronavirus. And I said, that's really crazy. I wonder what would happen if we had a pandemic. Maybe we might run out of toilet paper. Well, I'm not saying I'm a psychic, but I certainly wasn't wrong. And we certainly had some trouble around that topic, right? Um, but yeah, I was on a plane and then I had to do the rest of my trip, and I had my scarf wrapped around my face because they were all like, oh, you need to wear a mask. We didn't have masks and they were running out of masks at the airport, and it was a whole situation. So like I literally luckily had a scarf and I wrapped it around my face, and yeah, it was a wild ride. That we were so immersed in our phones, and it was a big change for social media. It was a big shift. It was, we went from like, Instagram and everything, just general daily browsing to like being on your phone all the time. Like, I don't know if you noticed, but your stats probably went way up, right? In your use of your phone. And since then, we've just kind of kept that wheel churning and we've never slowed down. And we've got all these new apps still harping on that, still using that, still going off of those stats and that buy-in that we have, if you will, because we never left our phones and we just got more and more and more involved. And we're seeing all these increases in, obesity and anxiety and depression. And I personally have PTSD. It's not fun for me to be on my phone. It's horrifying sometimes to see some of the things that I see on my phone. So 2025, I said, you know what, I've given this a few years, more than a few years, and I think it's time for me to step back. So what I did is I started to tighten myself off. I started to you can use screen time on your iPhone if you have it. I'll link something here to show you how to do that if you need to know how to do that and you decide to follow through with me on my little Amish ways, if you will, as some of my friends call it, for not being on social media as much. And I just kind of tightened myself off. So I noticed I was on my phone an average of about 4 hours a day on social media. And I was just, you scroll, 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 and then you put it down. Scroll, 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 and then you put it down. And that added up to 4 hours in my day. And then I took that and I put it to like 3.5. Then I did 3. Then 2.5. 2. And if you're smart, you catch my trend here. So eventually I got down to where I was at 30 minutes and I wasn't even on my phone except to check email or to answer a phone call or, text people that were in my life that I genuinely cared about. Yeah, it's not necessary. And I did start to notice, though, that the more that I was off my phone, the notifications from those apps would increase because they want you to come back to your phone. That's what their whole company is centered around, is you being on your phone. What kind of insane business model is that? That your lifestyle and your habits are somebody else's yacht right now. You realize that. The amount of time that you scroll through your phone or even look at notifications or look at anything they're pushing at you, any kind of emails, that is literally paying for somebody's yacht right now. It's absolutely insane. I also noticed that social media, when I was on it, it's caused us to have this like instant hatred, instant judgment on site. We have had to learn how to walk on eggshells and say things a certain way in comments so that you don't get bullied, you don't get harassed, you don't get people viewing your profile, you don't get, you know, people judging you and hating on you. Because as human beings, we all want to be liked. Not me, I don't give a shit. But as human beings, we're supposed to all want to be liked. We're supposed to have that need to socialize and gain social approval and, be good to our peers and all that kind of shit. And instantly, if you say something wrong or you're scrolling on your phone at, let's say, 2 o'clock in the morning because you're insomnia, and you say something to somebody and you're not aware of the whole situation, you haven't read the whole comment thread, you haven't looked at all the pictures, you haven't read the receipts or whatever the fuck, they'll come for you. They'll come for you. And what kind of anxiety does that create? You just wanted to scroll and comment and just whatever on your phone at 2 a.m. and you can't do that anymore. You got people on you all the time. You have to be perfect all the time. Mind your social cues, mind your graces, all this stuff. And it's a whole other culture of insanity. I don't even think there's any specific rules anymore to it. It's just dog eat dog anymore on there, on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. It's absolutely insane. What kind of human beings have we become that somebody thousands of miles away, or maybe even miles away from you locally, that's never seen you before, you have an instant need to prove a point, an instant need to judge them, to hate them, to, if they don't agree with you, then they're wrong. If they don't agree with the post, then they're a terrible person. And mind you, there are certain things socially and ethically that, yeah, maybe, there's a way around things. But generally, there's no right to just being able to say what you feel without prejudice anymore. And very rarely do people go and try and ask your view and say, why did you say that? Or do you know all the facts? Or, let me fill you in. It's instantly this hatred, it's instantly this judgment that we put on people. And for what? For why? You don't know them. And that makes you feel good. It's all become internet bully. It's a terrifying place for kids to go nowadays. It's terrifying. A lot of people are dealing with a lot in their heads. A lot. There's a lot going on in the world with inflation, with healthcare, with the rising cost of prices we have going on, climate change, housing market and people being able to live the way that they should. And we're all on each other on there. And it's like there's no peace. It used to be a place where you could go and you could socialize and you could have a great time talking with people, looking at photos, you know, flipping through things, setting up meetings to go talk to people later or hang out with your friends. No, it's not like that at all. It's ads, 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 hatred, 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 judgment, 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 anxiety, anxiety, anxiety. And you fill your head with that. And you've got a 40-hour work week, probably, or more, depending on your needs and your situation. You've got a whole other life outside of work, and you've got your own needs and your responsibilities. Why are we trying to, in our spare time, going, oh, that guy's an idiot? I'm going to tell him what an idiot he is. No, she doesn't know what the fuck she's talking about. I'm going to make sure she knows, and I'm going to put her in her place. Why? Why? Why do people feel they need to do this? It's insane. And then you go on some profiles and it's like, oh, love one another. You know, I'm a child of God. All this stuff. Not commenting like it. And I'm not going after Christians specifically. I am just saying that there's a lot of hatred and prejudice and bullshit on the internet that need not be there. And the reason I think we are genuinely nostalgic for times like the 80s and 90s is because you didn't fucking do that. Everyone always talks about, oh, remember back in the 70s, remember back in the 80s, remember back in the 90s, you know? Oh, it was such a simpler time. And yeah, and what did we not have? Your social media was Barb 2 doors down, or your grandma, or your uncle, or your cousins, or your friends at school. That was your social media. Okay? And you would get everything you needed to know from those people and develop your own view. And then you would go and hang with people and you would say, oh, I heard this about this person. Oh, I heard that about that situation. Oh, did you know that this is going on? And people were reading magazines and newspapers and talking to each other and, socializing as social media claims to intend. And we don't do that anymore. We don't do that anymore. Do you know your neighbors? If you're lucky enough to know your neighbors, great. But for most of us, I don't think we know our neighbors. I don't think we know the people 2, 3 doors down. I don't think we know the guy down the road. I don't think we know local businesses as well as we should. I think we know local businesses by looking on Uber Eats and seeing how well they do. What's their star rating? What's their menu like? What's this? What's that? Tell me all about it. Google will tell me. It's not about hearing from Barb anymore. It's not about hearing from your uncle. It's not about hearing from your friends or family. If you're nostalgic for that time back in the 80s and 90s, live it. Take yourself off this shit. You don't need it. I've been doing pretty well without it for a year and a half. My mind is clear. I've opened up 2 more businesses, 3 technically, but I've moved that into a service with the one. Networking more than ever, building things that I never thought I could dream I would build, doing hobbies that I never got the time to do because I have 4 hours back in my life now. And living my fucking life. And life is better this way, let me tell you. I have no inkling to go back to Facebook. The only thing I use Facebook for are my business pages, for my bookkeeping and my notary business and my art business that I've had for 16 years, which this is one of my pieces. But you don't need it. And if you're nostalgic for it, then go and live it. If you're nostalgic for that 80s and 90s vibe again, then go and live it. Get the fuck off of it. You don't need it. And that's point 2. Point 3, I already kind of discussed. Been off social media and it's great. Oh, remember, phones are tools. They are not our lives. They have become our lives because of the necessity of the infrastructure we built around them. That infrastructure is subject to change based on our buy-in and how soon we realize they are simply just tools. I have notes off to the side of my screen here, so I don't forget with my ADHD brain. But these things, these tools, this is only going to be as successful as you let it be. Facebook is only as successful as your buy-in. Instagram is only as successful as your buy-in. Twitter is only successful as your buy-in. All that shit. And here's what I think. Since I've already said 18 minutes of what I think, I have one more little bit on what I think. I'm going to give you guys a challenge. When I was in my early 20s to late teens, starting college, I went to U of A at first. And my goal for myself every day is I would talk to 5 people I didn't know. I would talk to 5 people that I felt weird about. And I would give 5 compliments. Those were my 3 5s. And that's how I built my art business, quite literally, through the 3 5s method. I went and I talked to 5 people I didn't know. I sat next to people that I didn't know, randomly talked to them, and I almost every single time could find a commonality. You don't need to discuss race, religion, politics, the big heavy topics to know somebody. How's your day? What's going on with you? Where are you at today? That's all you need. I like your hair. You know, I think your hair looks good today. Where'd you get that notebook? Dumb little shit I used to say. And then they'd start talking to me, and then I'd give them my business cards I made at Kinko's. And then they'd come to me and ask me for flyers. They'd ask me for banners. They'd ask me for whatever they needed. And then I started trying to put a printing press in my dorm and went from there. But that was how I started. And we need to get back to that. We need to get back to basics. Talking to 5 random people. Approaching people. Can you believe we don't approach people anymore? Can you imagine that? No one talks to each other anymore. We're on this all the fucking time. And that's how we judge people. That's how we talk to people. You have to be a brand. You have to be this. You have to be that. What if you're just getting coffee? What if you're just saying hi? My neighbor just moved in next door, and the neighbors that I had prior never talked to us. I was playing fetch with my dog the one day out in my yard, and I went to the neighbors that lived there before the one that moved in now. And I went next door, and I just went to knock on the door and say, hey, I think my dog's ball is in your backyard. Do you mind if I get it, or can you throw it back over the wall? They never answered the door. So like a few days later, I went back over, tried to knock on the door. This woman was looking at the door, and she was going like this and like dodging the curtains. I live right next door to her. Do I look intimidating to you? Like, obviously not, and I've never talked to her before in my life. But she's seen me, you know? That's how we've become. But yesterday, the new neighbor moved in next door, and she was painting the stuff and painting the walls outside, getting everything up to code because the prior neighbor never did, which is another topic for another day, and that's some tea, let me tell you. But I went up and I talked to her, and I shared my card, and she said to me, she said, yeah, we found a blue ball in the backyard, but from the sun, if you went like this with it, it just disintegrated in my hand. So she let it sit there, that prior neighbor let it sit there that whole time, disintegrate in the Arizona sun, and never answered the door to talk to me, and could have just easily thrown it over the door, over the fence. That's how we've become. But with this new thing that I have, where I went over there and, was a normal person, and we talked, and, she told me her name and what she does, and she's a lovely person. And, she says, I would have thrown it back over for you, but, it's disintegrated. That's the difference. That's the difference we're looking for. Get away from anti-social media. It's making you antisocial in its own way. Talk to your neighbors. Talk to people around you. Go say hi to somebody random and try and strike up a conversation with them. Don't be creepy. I'm not saying be creepy. Be cool. It's a weird sister, not trying to make creeps here. But that's where I'm at with it. If you want to get back to how we were and relearning how to jive and vibe with people, that's where I think we need to start. Start bringing yourself back and pulling yourself away. And I'm going to try and link how to go into your settings on iPhone and Android to maybe set limits if you're into that kind of thing. I'll try and find what I can for you. But that's what I got for you. And that's going to be the focus of the social media series here. So, yeah. All right. Bye.